Hello, everyone. Welcome to another discussion about Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. This time, I'm joined with toy expert Ramses. Rams, go and tell the audience about yourself.
Oh, hello, everybody. My name is Ramses. I host a podcast about pop culture where we talk a lot about the action figures and stuff like that Hasbro makes, like Transformers, G.I. Joe, and whatnot. And also, I host another podcast called the SEIYA COSMOCAST. That is my pride and joy. You can find those on all your favorite podcasting services. I also do live streaming over at twitch.tv/LRamses84.
All right, thank you. Now, why are we here? Well, if you haven't heard, Hasbro did a lot of firings. Over 1,100 employees have been removed from Hasbro and their various subsidiaries. This is very similar to last year when they also fired a large amount of employees right before the end of the year. Unfortunately, because of how business works, we won't really know what areas all the employees have been fired from until the final year-end report appears early next year. However, we do know a lot of them were from Wizards of the Coast. We have heard reports from some of the creators behind Baldur's Gate 3 that the staff they were talking to has been all but removed. We have heard stories about the losses of various artists. And of course, we have stories coming out from the other sections of Hasbro that have all seen losses. Rams, why do you think this happened?
Why do I think this is happening? People are not buying the toys. They're front-ending too much of their stuff at the beginning of the year that it just kind of like stayed on until like the end of the year and no one was buying anything at that point. Like right now we're having a huge issue where we're seeing a lot of the toys just being dumped at discount stores like PD's and at Ross, Marshall's, and we're seeing them at absurd prices. And not only that, but yesterday they had a Fan Friday and they had a big thing for Wolverine's 60th anniversary. Hey, it's his 60th next year, who'd have thought? You know, he doesn't look a day over 30. There was something that he snuck in very quickly during all this hoopla over all the stuff they were announcing. They announced what they call an evergreen wave of Marvel Legends, basically reissue figures that they've already released. They stripped out everything out of the figure. You don't get any extra hands, you don't get any extra heads, you don't get the Build-A-Figure piece. You're just getting a base figure, and that's it.
Pretty weak.
And it gets worse. The price range is going to be $30
for just a nothing figure. It's just the guy.
Yes. But with the economy as it is right now, where no one's buying the stuff, also like a general fatigue for most of the things that are being released, is getting into a lot of it as well. I think also too, a lot of it has to do with the fact that like they're paying out of pocket for a lot of stuff that they're doing. Like this year, they're touting that they were going to bring back starting lineup.
Wow, that brings me back to way young childhood.
And the worst part is like that fizzled out because like they were only selling at specialty retailers and they were asking like $70 each. I'm like,
ugh.
Bridge way too far for a LeBron James figure. If it was 20, I'd be like, okay, fine. But at almost $70, like, no, I'm not buying that. They're bleeding a lot of money because of Power Rangers. They had to fund everything out of pocket. Oof. So there's a lot of moving pieces going on.
So on the tabletop side of things, you know, we all know that D&D has been hurting pretty bad. But of course, Wizards survives on one brand and one brand alone, Magic the Gathering.
During the pandemic, when people were just buying stuff and they were just opening stuff on streams, that's just where that just people buying cards again started becoming a thing again.
And it held on for a few years afterwards, but it looks like maybe it started to kind of sink down a little bit. But even still, Wizards was profitable each quarter of this year thus far. So we're still not seeing Wizards in a hurting position, despite the fact that they lost quite a few employees. Anyone who has seen any of my Hasbro quarterly report videos knows that each quarter they have been losing more and more money. Oftentimes them celebrating, we didn't lose as much this quarter, still means they took a loss. Usually employees get fired specifically to try to reduce cost and in a hope that this will raise their stock prices, but the stock prices have not come up, which means there is doubt in the financial community about Hasbro's viability going forward. And that's due to not selling toys, that's due to the toy quality versus price going horribly opposite directions, where the quality is dropping down and the price is just rising up. If the customer isn't interested and the Wall Street guy isn't interested, that just spells doom for Hasbro.
And also, there's also something else you need to realize. We're not the primary market for a lot of this stuff. A lot of what's going on is for, like, parents. They're the ones buying the stuff for the kids. like that's fine. They have stuff for us. You know, they have like for Transformers, they have Transformers Legacy, aka Transformers Generations. You know, G.I. Joe, they've been consistent, but it's been fan focused. G.I. Joe Classified has that. You have Marvel Legends. But at the end of the day, it's still parents buying the toys. And the economy is in a bad place right now, where kids can't afford even like the more basic figures. Then we got an issue. One of the biggest sellers I've noticed when it comes to like selling stuff is what they call the Titan Heroes, which are just these like 7-8 hollowed out action figures. For what you're paying for them is actually pretty good. You're paying like $8-9 for like a pretty decent chunk action figure, and you know even that's not selling, and that's kind of a concerning thing.
I'd add into this that one of the other things that can hurt is lacking demand, and as you pointed out, the parents, but also the kids need to be interested in these brands. Marvel's kind of run its course, and the current generation isn't into Marvel, and having family that's involved in education, I've learned that they kind of look at Marvel's like, yeah, that was like from like my dad or my older brother, but it isn't for me. As I was talking recently of someone else, there really hasn't been a new G.I. Joe cartoon in quite some time. The most recent Transformers cartoon, Earthspark, was just intrinsically terrible, which is a sad thing because I was actually looking forward to it. And a lot of these brands have been hurt by not having that interest and that imagination in the kids. And I want to compare this to Mattel. Mattel had a Barbie movie this year that did gangbusters. And Barbie is selling well because people are reinvigorated in Barbie in the Barbieverse.
Here's a good indicator as to what's been going on. The Barbie stuff is true. Masters of the Universe is getting bad because what's going on with Masters of the Universe is that this is less of like a Mattel issue and more like a retailer issue. They front-loaded so many figures. I'm still finding figures from like 2 years ago still out because retailers are still sitting on stock from that time. And I have not seen anything from this year's figures. And next year, I doubt I'm going to see anything because like next year they're planning on doing a Filmation series. Like they're gonna make the figures in Filmation style, and they're gonna team up with the Ninja Turtles so the Ninja Turtles are gonna be in the He-Man style.
Oh.
And I can guarantee you right now, I am never gonna see those figures.
Is it just that all these figures are in a crate somewhere? Is that basically what's going on?
Yes, that's what's going on. It's sitting on a pallet somewhere, and it's just taking up space. Either they need to wait for like a planogram change to happen, or they just need to wait for sales for things to up the sales before they can get rid of a lot of the older stock. That's why a lot of that stuff gets trickled out to the stores like Ross and DD's and Marshall's because they're sitting on all that stuff that can't go out. Shit goes out to other places, and that's why you end up with like later wave stuff and stuff that I had not seen before, just willy-nilly for like $3-4.
Because they need to sell it to someone, and they can sell it at liquidation prices, at least get it out to the market.
Yes.
Oof.
And I think what ended up happening too is like Hasbro's not getting the money out of it. Mattel's not getting any money out of it because I think they're buying it directly from the stores, like from Walmart and Target and all those retailers directly. And that's why they end up with a lot of that stock.
All right. Well, I think we can both agree that things are not going to be looking good for Hasbro for quite some time because if people can't get the new stock who are interested in the new stock, we don't have a successful means of reaching a new audience, and let's face facts, no one's going out and buying Marvel or Star Wars figures nowadays. Both those brands have been kind of tainted, and that's kind of more Disney's fault than anyone else, but Hasbro has the license, and thus they need to take the loss as well. The big question is, what would you suggest Hasbro do in order to try to save themselves?
They have to like cut a lot of fat. Try skipping a Transformers movie. Sell back Power Rangers to someone that knows what they're going to do with Power Rangers. Open up way more to licensing to like stuff like Dungeons and Dragons. You know, stop with your draconian ways of like doing a lot of business deals with Dungeons and Dragons and start being a little bit more open with it. You know, another big thing that kind of damaged them was they invested in stuff like Fortnite. I don't think they got decent returns out of that.
Yeah, I can't imagine people who play Fortnite really want action figures of Fortnite.
I right now just brought a Battle Pass. It cost me $7 for 3 months of gameplay. And I can get Giga Chad, Peter Griffin, and Solid Snake at a later date. Compared to if I go to Walmart and go to buy the toys, I'm paying like almost $30 for something else. That's what Hasbro needs to do. They just need to like they need to learn how to spread out their IPs better. Take a lot and just take a break from like the main stuff right now. Maybe take like a 2 or 3 year break from making Transformers movies. I think just having a good wait time between things could work. I know for a fact that G.I. Joe, like, it's not just Hasbro making figures. You have Mezco making figures for them, and now you're going to have McFarlane making figures for them as well in 2024.
Let's see, I think I trust a McFarlane product more than I trust a Hasbro product at this point.
Oof. It's just stuff like that. It's just more like take more advantage of that kind of thing. The biggest part of all this, unfortunately, in your case, it's the D&D side of things, and like which is the coast thing. It's like I don't know where we can fix those issues.
There's a lot of issues that I didn't even get into in this video, such as the fact that they're still planning on releasing what they were calling 1D&D, and now I'm not entirely certain what name it is because I think they've changed it a couple times, but we're just going to call it 1D&D. They've been planning on releasing that next year for some time now. But the problem is they're also releasing source books that are designed around 5th edition. Now, for anyone who's been paying attention to the playtests, 1D&D and 5th edition are not compatible. There are too many changes to how characters level up, and there's too many changes to races, where it's not going to work really smoothly. You could possibly use 1D&D characters in campaign books that do exist and the 5th edition books. It is possible that the balancing is going to be off because now players are a lot stronger than they used to be, which is going to make the missions unnecessarily easier than they should be.
It's fitting a square shape into a round peg at this point.
Exactly. In addition to that, if they make 1D&D based adventures, 5th edition will not be compatible at all. Like, our characters will not be able to fit in those missions, primarily because they're designed for a very differently balanced character with different skills, because again, when you mess around with the races and mess around with all the classes, that's what happens. The point is, this is going to take an already divided D&D fandom and divide it even further. I'm even in a position now where I would love to just go back and play 3.5 or play 2nd edition. Yes, they're more brutal, but at least they're stable. And I don't think they're going to go change them up anytime soon. Or, if necessary, I will continue playing 5th edition. My brother and I still have quite a few books, so we have quite a few missions, campaigns, and things like that, and 5th edition could just run as 5th edition, and we could just pretend everything after 5th edition just doesn't exist. And obviously buy no more books because of what Wizards has done over the course of the last few years. Wizards will never truly fall until Magic the Gathering starts losing steam, which it seems like it's starting to, but it's still going to take a while for that train to slow down.
I think you told me that they're working on using AI art in some of the newer editions of the guidebooks of Dungeons & Dragons?
Yeah, I did a video on that where they had some very blatant AI artwork with messed up hands, messed up legs, messed up looking armor and things like that. And I do know an artist that has been fired who has told me some stories that unfortunately I can't share in this forum because it'll give away who he is. But they are getting rid of more experienced artists because they can hire inexperienced artists and pay them like half as much. So it is very possible some of the people who got lost from Wizards will be replaced with less experienced people, which means less quality art, it means less quality writing, and it means that the high-tier people who've been making all these jerk decisions to begin with still hold their position, which is the one thing we really need to change, because if we don't get rid of some of these people who are making these bonehead decisions, who are treating the fans like they're garbage or they're walking piggy banks, then we're never going to actually have the version of our favorite products that we want. Thank you for watching, and a big thank you to all the new subscribers. As always, I will remind you to fight the good fight, because if we keep fighting back, we will win. Also, check out all of Ramses' podcasts and his Twitch stream. They are awesome, especially the Saturday Morning Squadron, where I am occasionally a guest on the show. Until next time, I'll see you at the tavern.